Looks like we got some people filtering in, so we'll be waiting here just a few more minutes before we get started. All right. We're here at 11 o'clock. There are 27 people in the room. So I think maybe we'll give it another couple minutes to see if we get a few more folks showing up.
Hey, so I just noticed that we have a typo in the password on the calendar.
Yeah, I posted in Slack correction.
Oh, cool.
I can fix that really good.
All right, we got a few more coming in. Thanks, Steve, for hitting the channel there.
No worries. I'll post the link to it as well.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, early morning, late evening, whatever time it may be in your area. We're very glad that you could join us for this orientation. We're going to go over just some of the the basics of the competition, and then have some time at the end for any sort of last minute questions. I just want to remind everyone that we will have a kickoff meeting again at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's when the competition will really get started. But now's sort of your last chance to ask, last minute questions to the committee in a more sort of relaxed forum. So let's get started. Next slide.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm sure everyone's been having fun on this adventure so far with virtual SCC. Introduced everyone to all of the teams and the committee. There's a lot of things that have been happening behind the scenes on the committee that you might not know about. So we're going to recognize those folks. Talk a little bit about what the next few days are going to be like, and how you can best sort of engage with the conference and the competition to get the most out of the experience. And then we'll end on some Q&A. Next slide. So for those of you who have participated in the cluster competition in the past, this is sort of what it looks like. It's a bunch of people all real close together, not wearing masks, on the show floor, having lots of fun. And this seemed like what we were gonna hopefully be doing back in January when we started planning this event, or even earlier. But unfortunately, we had a bit of a pandemic. And so what we got was something a little different. So with all the travel restrictions and everything, and the fact that the conference is completely virtual, we had to do a big pivot. The committee worked very hard to change. I'm sure all of you were also shifting things that you were doing. We changed the application process, and we've been able to get to today to do a virtual competition. So the competition looks a little different. You are probably all in your homes or your home institutions, and rather than running on gear that you've shipped to Atlanta, we're all running these applications together in the cloud. So it's not ideal, it's not the same, but it is, I think, still a great experience for everyone. And I hope everyone has been able to engage with the competition and has gotten a lot out of it to this point. Next slide. So one actual benefit of doing the competition this way is that we've been able to accept more teams than ever before. So in the past few years, there have been 16 teams that we were able to accept, and without any limitations sort of on the power and cooling and infrastructure at the convention center. The only real limit to how many teams we could accept was the number of outstanding applications and the amount of Azure cloud dollars that we were able to secure. So luckily we were able to get enough to support 19 teams. They're all listed here. We span, I I think it's either 16 or 17 time zones, which is really great. People are coming from all over the world. It makes it hard to pick good times for meetings, though, for everyone. So thank you to those of you in sort of time zones that are way far away from the Eastern time zones, who are up very late or very early to make our meetings together. Next slide. Oh, we have a few polls to find out more about all of you. So, Veronica, do you want to?
Okay, so we just wanted to, we're using this Menti application to kind of allow you to learn more about each other. So if you go to www.menti.com and then put the code that you have there, we have only like 3 or 4 questions. We just wanted to see so that each other can see how the other people have experience in how many competitions and things like that. So I'll just leave this on for a few seconds, and then we can see the results.
Does this include, sorry, Veronica, does this include committee members and advisors?
Yes, everyone.
I hope there's not too many undergrads who've been to 5+ cluster competitions. So yeah, please join in.
And we have 47 people, so as soon as I have enough answers. All right. Wow, it looks like we have a lot of new people. That's awesome. All right. Okay, it looks like responses are slowing down. So let's see. Oh, there's one more. All right, I will close polling. So it looks like more than almost 60% of you are actually new to the competition, which is great to see. And 3 people, hopefully committee members, have been there for 5+ times at SCC. So that's very good. And we have a couple other questions. So have you participated in like the Asian Student Cluster competition or the ISC in Germany student cluster competition? Whoa. All right, looks like we have about 30 answers so far. All right, any takers? All right, it seems like maybe one team has participated in about one team has participated before. Let's see. Oh, we have a few more answers. But for those that are new to the competition, the Asian Student Cluster competition and the ISC competition in Germany are also ones that you should look into. This is they happen every year, pandemic minus pandemic years, and this is definitely something you should look into if you're interested in competing more. So now we have about 34 people. So I'm gonna move forward because we have a couple more questions. which Vscc application has been the most challenging so far? And that's kind of, we're curious also to to see how you've been doing with all the codes.
Veronica, this is Mary Thomas. I came a few minutes late. How do I
Oh,
access
sure.
poll?
If you go to www.menti.com and use the code that is at the top of the slide, you should be able to.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so we're about 25 people. So CSM seems like it's giving people a bit of trouble, but that's, I guess, expected.
The weather codes always do.
Yeah. All right, we're about 29 people. I think I can probably say it's probably CSM is the winner of that one. So the last question we have, what is the mystery app? What do you think the mystery app will be? And you're welcome to interpret this question in any way you'd like. Deep learning stuff. Minecraft, I like that.
There's some good guesses in there.
Yeah.
I like Wharf. Two weather codes during a competition would be pretty brutal.
That's just cruel. Oh, emojis. You can put emoji answers. That's nice. All right. Let's see how many answers do we have. I'll give them just a few more seconds in case somebody wants to chime in, so we can put a sad face. So I want to take a screenshot so we can put that in our student cluster Twitter handle. All right, let's see. Oh, still changing. All right, we have 36 answers and 51 people here. Anybody else wants to chime in? Going once, going twice. All right, then let's close the poll. Oh, I changed one more time. All right, let me close voting. All right, so we're closing voting for this one. Take a slide. And back to you, Scott.
Well, that was great. I hope everybody enjoyed that and got a little more information about the teams that you'll be competing with. And I want to encourage everyone to continue to interact with each other via the Slack channel. We have a Zoom room set up that you can. This room here is pretty much open all throughout the competition. We will be live streaming it, I think, if I can get it all worked out. So throughout the competition, and you can also obviously interact on the Google group. But since we can't be together in person, and there are not as many in-person interaction opportunities, or actually none, I think try and avail yourself of all the different ways that there are to get together with other teams. I wanted to say thank you to all of the people who have worked very hard on this competition to put this all together. And I would encourage each of you to reach out to someone who you have has helped you or been an inspiration to you, and thank them because everyone that's worked on this project has done it as a volunteer, and it has taken a lot of time and effort. I specifically wanted to call out some folks on the committee. Obviously, none of this would have happened without the hard work of my co-chair, Veronica Vergara, who has made everything happen, basically. I just talk over slides mostly. Go ahead, Veronica. Did you want to say
No,
something?
I'm just gonna say stop.
Our vice chair, Jason Kinchel, has been instrumental in putting together all of the infrastructure. So the leaderboard that you'll see, designing all of the storage accounts and upload, download stuff, and all of the pieces that we're running to do the grading and stuff have really been his thing that he's put together. Abhinav Thoda has managed all of our applications, brought together a great team of application leads. I think we picked a pretty good set of apps this year, and he has put together all of the instructions for you all, and will has connected folks with the app leads and whatnot. So that was a ton of work. Stephen Leake, hopefully many of you have seen Stephen on a webinar or orientation. He has stepped up and put together a great series of webinars over the past couple months, and I think it's been an excellent resource. If you missed out on those, you really did miss out, because there was a lot of great information that was presented in all of those webinars that Stephen put together. We can't, obviously, the competition would not have happened without the generous donation of Microsoft of Azure credits, and nothing would have gone forward without the heroic efforts of Andy Howard, who put together all of the Azure subscription for everyone. And we have used the cloud in many past years, but never this early and never to this extent. And so Andy really stepped up, and he deserves a great round of applause and thanks from all of us. And I should mention that both Azure, Microsoft Azure, and the committee, the SC committee in general, have sponsored the financial requirements for this competition. And the other thing I should say is about the SC committee, committee in general has been overwhelmingly supportive of this activity. So I'd like to especially thank the general chair, who we'll hear from at our kickoff, Christine Quickie, has really thrown a lot of support behind this Vscc, and I think if you get a chance, you should definitely thank someone on the committee at large, not just the Student Cluster Competition Committee, for being supportive of this activity. Next slide. Okay, so how is this all going to work out? Well, there's a few things that Veronica and I want to emphasize that are a little bit different this year. Obviously, this is still a great opportunity for everyone to learn a lot, to have some professional development, to get experience in HPC. I think a lot of the things that people have been experiencing in terms of challenges and curveballs thrown their way, although the technical details are a little bit different in the cloud, the experience is very similar to what we all experience for on-site installations day to day at an HPC center. So the things that we really want to emphasize this year are flexibility, respect, and fair play. Obviously, everyone has had to be flexible since the beginning of this year. There have been numerous changes to everyone's lives and the way that we do things. This is an entirely new experience for everyone, not only for you team members, but also for us committee members. And so we will all commit to work to being as flexible as we possibly can be, and ask that you do so as well. And have a good amount of understanding with us, and know that we are doing our best to be flexible to make this a successful competition. Next slide. Right, so there's a lot of new stuff. We have more teams than we've ever had. We've never been spread over this many time zones, and we've never been completely fully in the cloud. So things will definitely come up. We will, as a committee, will do our very best to address them, but we ask that you also be as flexible as you can be. We know that you're all facing challenges in communicating together with your team and working together as a cohesive team, but we appreciate that, and we want everyone to really try and be as flexible as possible. We also want, because there are a lot of new ways, our primary modes of communication are not sitting in a booth and talking to each other. We just want to remind everyone that in all of your interactions, be it whoever it's with, be it with your teammates, your competitors, or with the committee, whatever mode of communication it's with, be it on Slack, in a Zoom call, on the Google group forum, just be respectful and understand that everyone is really trying to do their best to have a good competition. We're very impressed with everything that folks have accomplished thus far, and you should really take an opportunity to show some respect, give some props to another team that you may have interacted with or admired. Remember that the main sort of ways to communicate are Slack and Zoom that we just rolled out in the past a week and a half or so. And obviously the Google group has been going for quite some time. So those are the ways that we will be communicating going forward as well. So in the physical past, when we all met together, we had a variety of ways to encourage fair play and discourage people from cheating. Obviously, we would like everyone to be play fair, be good sports. We realize that there is less under our physical control than there would be if we were all meeting together in a big convention center. So, and we also realize that we made up all of the rules for the cloud in a period of a few months, whereas the in-person SCC rules have evolved over a decade. So if you have a question about whether or not something is legal or allowed, please ask it rather than just assume that it's okay to do. The real point of the competition is to try and, as much as possible, simulate you having access to a cluster of your own design as you would on the show floor. You're only to use those cloud resources that we have provided access to, so that $3,200 budget in Azure. And we really want everyone to adhere to the rules with the understanding that there's just less control on all of our sides, both on the committee side and on the team side. So if you have a question about whether or not something might be allowed, it's always better to ask it and get a clarification rather than assume something. Next slide.
Just before we move on from that, if you guys haven't seen, I did send out an email with adjustments to a few of the VM types that the teams have requested, particularly the ND V2 VM type. As you guys can probably guess, that's a really expensive VM or really expensive server for us to build and keep idle. So there is pretty limited capacity right now.
Okay, so the last few slides are sort of advice to team members about how to get the most out of this virtual competition. So there's a lot of opportunities. We're going to be competing over the next several days, but the conference goes for the next 2 weeks. Typically, when we meet in person, many of the competition activities directly conflict with a lot that's going on the show floor in terms of technical papers, BOFs, workshops, panels, so on and so forth. This format gives you all the opportunity to participate in and experience a lot of the conference that you wouldn't otherwise be able to because you'd be busy working on your clusters. So please take advantage of that. You should have access to all the tech program and workshops. So there's a huge amount of content that's out there to look at. There's also a lot of student sessions that are going on throughout the conference. So you don't have to just limit yourself to the Vscc ones. Feel free to join in any of the students' sessions. They should all be up on the Google Calendar. If you haven't checked that out yet, you should definitely take a look. Also, the keynotes and plenaries are going to be exciting, and you will want to be at the awards ceremony because one team will be receiving an award. Actually, perhaps 2 teams will be receiving awards. So you don't want to miss that. There's also a lot of opportunities for furthering your and developing your career. So there's a job board and workshops for resumes, and you can connect with people in a lot of different ways. So do take advantage of those as much as you can. Next slide. Okay, so the best way to take advantage of this is really look ahead, plan out a schedule. You're going to be spending a lot of time in the next 72 or 80 hours working on the competition. But as I just said, there's a lot of other opportunities beyond that. So take a look, now and plan the things that you really want to attend. I think probably everyone's been sitting in front of their computer and staring at screens and doing Zooms for very long periods of time. Do make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Do take breaks. We do not advocate or encourage anyone to sit in front of their computer for the next 72 hours and not get up. So please take care of yourself and make sure that your teammates are, being conscious of their health and their mental well-being. And as I mentioned, throughout this talk, just please give everyone as much grace and respect as you possibly can. I think that's the best way for us to avoid any, issues and or deal with them if they arise. Next slide. Okay, so there's a few reminders. This is at the end of the presentation, and then I'll get to any questions. I saw a few things coming up in the Slack or in the chat. Okay, so we have the Slack channel. Obviously, there's this Zoom room that we're in right now. It will be open starting at an hour before the competition starts and roll throughout the competition. Because the way that Zoom is set up, it has to die for at some period. It can only go 24 hours at a time. So I've set it to terminate at midnight every night Eastern time and resume at 12:30 a.m. Every night. So between the hours of midnight Eastern and 12:30, this room will not exist. There's also the Google group, right? Oh, I should also mention in the Zoom room, if you come for, if you want to talk to an app lead, we will have different breakout rooms for different applications. There's a few last minute reminders. If you haven't gotten your poster voiceovers recorded into Cadmium, we had a bit of a snafu there, and we apologize for that profusely. But you'll probably need to re-record those. Veronica, did you have something to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you do have to record those because that's just like basically that's how the attendees will be able to hear your poster when they walk by virtually. But we are using the ones that you already submitted for grading, so they're not lost. We are using those because you already prepared them, and the one that you're recording to Cadmium could be like a short version, or if you want to change something, you can. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. But they send you a password for it directly. So if you don't have that, your advisor should have received an email with a Cadmium password. And if you have not recorded yet, or if you have any questions, please ping me, because we need to make sure those are in before the conference starts. Ideally now-ish, but if not, before the official second week starts.
Yeah, so make sure you get that recorded. And if you have trouble, like if you haven't gotten the access code, reach out to one of us, and we will do our best to track it down. Also, the lightning talk videos, if you haven't gotten that handed in, do that. And if you haven't tested your ability to upload submissions into the test container, which is what our current leaderboard is showing, please do so. If you can't hand in your results, all is for naught. So make sure you know how to submit results before the beginning of the competition. We will have a kickoff session today at 5 p.m. Eastern in 5.5 short hours. So I hope everyone is ready. And I think with that, is there next slide?
And now this is the last one.
We'll go to questions. So I'm going to work through these questions real as quickly as I can that are in the chat, and then we'll just open it up in case somebody wants to ask a question here. The first one is, what's the best way to contact the VSCC organizers? Slack, Google Groups, or this Zoom call? I would say to do it in that order that's listed. So Slack, people are on the Slack channel watching it. The response won't necessarily be immediate, but it should be pretty quick. The Google group is also a good option. There are a lot of threads in there. And so sometimes it's hard to make sure that we're responding to all of them. This Zoom call is really, the committee members and application experts are not going to be chained into this Zoom call for the next 80 or so hours, because we're all human beings and we can't, do that. So the Zoom call is really here for people to sort of come and go as they need. It may be that if you have a question that's better answered with some in-person interaction, you start a conversation in Slack and jump into a Zoom call with an app expert or a committee member. But I would really say that this is sort of a area where people can come and hang out, but you shouldn't necessarily expect it to be staffed by the committee 24/7. The next question is, can we prototype a solution basically to check if the approach is valid on our universities cluster and complete the actual computations on Azure? Once the during the training period, I think that's a fine approach. Once the competition is started, all computations need to happen in Azure. Put yourself in the mindset of if you were on the show floor and you had brought your own cluster, what would you be able to do? All right. And so I think that running additional systems outside of Azure, you need to have a really good reason to do that. We've talked about a little bit, answered a few questions in Slack already about things like plotting or making PDF reports on your workstation or a laptop. That's all okay because you would have your laptop there with you at the competition and be able to do that if you were there in person. But using a separate like university or a large scale system is really not a good idea. So no. Okay, Andy answered some questions. Mary Thomas asked, for the architecture, we based our proposal on a budget that was lower than the actual. Will we be allowed to go over our proposed dollar budget? Okay. I'm not sure I exactly understand this question, but let me just say a couple things, and then Mary, you might have a follow-up or clarification question. The budget is your total spend, all right? The reason that we have the architecture proposal, one is to simulate what you would need to do if we were doing an in-person competition, where you would have to give us your final hardware before the competition. And two is to ensure that we have enough total subscription quota for all of the VMs that the entire set of teams might be running at any given time. So Andy's worked with Azure to make sure that if everyone runs all the things they say they're going to run, well, actually all the things that Andy has said you can run, then we'll be okay. So people won't get, no more resources available. Now, if people go over that quota, obviously we'll run into a problem. And so that's why the point penalties for going over quota exist. And then there's also a penalty if you go over your budget. Did that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to make sure, and when we wrote ours up, we operated with a much lower budget than you guys have put in. So your budget that you've got for the competition is great. It's really generous. And I just wanted to make sure that the number we had put into our architecture proposal that we can exceed that dollar budget that we were kind of planning around. So we're
Yes.
good. Yeah,
That's
thank
fine.
you.
Yep. Yeah, as long as you stay within the core count limits, then you should be good.
Yeah, we're fine on that. Thank you.
Okay. Sam asked, are there going to be instructions on how to access the posters later?
I mean, do you mean in the conference site, or let me see if I can show my screen.
Yeah, everything this year is in this Cadmium platform. And I think there's like a virtual poster gallery.
Yes, and all your posters have been uploaded. What is it called? Event Scribe. Let's see if this works. And you can, I'll try to pull this up. No, that's the wrong one. I'll try to pull this up in the meantime. But you can keep going with the questions.
Okay. In addition to the app office hours, will there be daily Vscc sync meeting? Yeah, I sent out a document. If you haven't read it yet, it's probably because I sent it out like 1 a.m. last night. That has like the very high level items. And I think I put sync ups in there. Maybe I forgot. We will have sync ups.
We put them in the calendar also.
They're also now on the calendar.
Yes.
So 10 a.m. Eastern, we'll do a very brief 10-minute stand-up meeting as we would traditionally do for the competition. So that's a great time to grab one of the committee members if you have a really pressing question and haven't been able to get an answer either from Slack or Google. We'll all be, or as many of us as possible, will be here in this Zoom room at 10 a.m. And we will, any new emerging information that all the teams need to know, we'll distribute that, and then also take any questions, concerns, or anything like that from your teams. Here's a question for Andy. Are there ways to use certain nodes that are not requested in the final architecture proposal? I realized after that there was a different node that could help me, LSV2.
So, I mean, similar to what Scott said earlier, if you do use VMs outside of your proposed architecture, there will be a point penalty assessed. So you can weigh the benefits and drawbacks of that.
Right, and the penalties are pretty, we set them up to be a little bit steep. And certainly, I think there's more capacity in the L and HB series. And most people requested many more of those cores. The penalties are a percentage of your request. I would just implore people, do not go over the quotas on the NC and ND because we just don't have a huge capacity there. And I would hate for one team to be blocking access for other teams. If it gets to that point, you will almost certainly be incurring a penalty that will make it impossible for you to win. Password in Google Calendar be corrected. I think Steve Leake's working on that. We'll get that fixed. Yes.
To go back to the posters question, so
yes.
Here's where the posters are. I hope you can still see my screen.
Yes.
So if you go to your SC20, oh, that's one thing I wanted to remind you. You should have received an email from SC registration at espargo.com with your registration, because you all got registration through the competition. If you didn't, please let me know, and I'll figure out what went wrong. But with that, you'll get an email that has a code that lets you log into the Cadmium SC event platform. And in here, you can go see the schedule, you can tag sessions and build all that. But you can go to posters, and we have a student cluster competition poster track. And here you can actually see your posters, and I'm glad to see a few people have now a sound record, which is great. So it seems to be, at least some people have been able to log in to record. So you can see here the team and your poster, and you can see the recording that the recording will be playing when people come in here and click the poster.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Chris Bunn says, our team set our quota on both the per application and total competition core count. Given the changes in the competition quota, will we be held to our total competition quota or our per application quota? In other words, can we move the number of cores between applications? I think as a committee, we were really looking for, something similar to your hardware final architecture. And so it's just a total core count. Whenever teams run, whatever applications they run, you can run them whenever. You can use the cores however you want to use them. You obviously can't go over the $3,200 budget. The one thing you do need to be aware of is when you run the benchmarks, you need to record the VMs that you used in those benchmarks. There will be instructions included in the final instructions on how to grab that information to put into the configuration file that you need to submit. And we're doing that just to verify that the resources that you used and the score that you got actually match up and make sense.
Yeah, Christopher, if you're still unclear what your actual limits are for the competition, feel free to email me and I can verify that for you. Just let me know which team you're on.
Okay. The next question is, are we only able to access resources that we requested in our cloud architecture proposal, or would we be able to access nodes that we did not request? If we are, what would the penalty be for this? So this is a bit of an edge case because the penalties are all based on a percentage of your request. And if you didn't request anything and you use one core, that's, an infinite percentage more than you requested. Don't use VMs that you didn't request. If you absolutely have to, and it's a SKU that we have some capacity in, write to the committee, and we will review that request, and we may grant it and we may not. It just depends on the capacity. Andy, did you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, if you haven't requested it, you definitely need to reach out and make sure that we have some capacity if you're wanting to use it. But I mean, this is kind of the equivalent of showing up to the competition with a specific cluster architecture and then saying, hey, we want to go grab some different nodes from the show floor and replace that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are there some rubrics for all applications? That is score composition. So you should have received a document which described the score penalties. At the bottom of that document was a breakdown of the score. I believe that's what you're referring to. How much each application contributes to the total score. If I can remember it off the top of my head, I think it's 10% for posters, 10% for lightning talks, 17.5% for each of the four applications, and 10%
that's right.
for benchmarks. Yeah, if you have further questions on that breakdown, let us know. Is a more detailed rubric going to be released? From Sam. So the way that this works is each application should give you a scoring rubric. there will be multiple tasks inside of each application. I believe this has been up to the application experts, but I believe they're all scored out of 100. So you would take however many points you got from that application, and then multiply it by 0.175, and that would tell you how much it factors into your total score, because each application is 17.5%. And then the way that we do the benchmarks is that the team with the highest score gets that full percentage towards their total score, and then each other team is scaled on that. So if you get half of the highest score, or if you get half of the team with the highest score in your HPL run, you'll get half of the points for it. If you get 99.9%, you'll get basically the same score as that team. Okay, our NC-V3 series, with without RDMA SSD enabled, regarded as the same SKU. Andy.
Yes, yeah, anything that's NC-V3, whether it's NC-RS, NCS, whatever, NC6, NC12, NC24, all of those are considered the same VM type. So those quota requests were submitted by family, not the specific instance type.
And that, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but that applies across all of the instance types. So if someone requested an L8, whatever it's.
Yes, yeah, exactly. If you requested L8 and you want to use L16, if you have quota for it, that's fine. You just can't swap, for instance, an NCV2 for an NCV1.
Okay, great. Another question: are there going to be office hours specifically for the cloud? My team is having trouble booting NC24R with custom image, but had no problem doing so with NC24R promo. That really depends on Andy. He's a cloud expert.
So we won't necessarily have cloud specific office hours, but I'll try and follow up via Slack and or Gmail or Google Groups to help address that. Again, there's one of me and there are 114 of you. So trying to set up office hours to deal with all of that is a bit of a
not good odds.
Problem.
but do reach out on Slack or the Google group, and I would say, Andy may be able to schedule like a brief, if it's quicker to address the problem, he may be able to schedule a brief 5-minute call with you on this Zoom channel to sort of work through things. Will there still be separate awards for the 3 benchmark apps this year? So the SC committee has a strict process for how to give out and alter awards. So for time immemorial, the student cluster competition has had a top HPL award and a overall winner award. We will continue that tradition this year as well. All right, I think I got through the whole chat log here. Thanks for your questions. Those are all very good questions and hopefully gave insight to other folks. Are there any other questions that folks would either like to put in the chat or just ask? I think anyone can unmute if you just want to unmute and ask a question. Don't be shy.
Hey, Scott, for the person who asked about the setting up the NVIDIA cluster, our team found a lot of oddnesses as well. So maybe if you post it on Google Group, we can look at it too and share some experiences. So just inviting them to do that, and I'll see if my guys can take a look at that.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, and I think that's great. The Google group is a great resource. We've you know, there have been teams helping each other out, and I think that's a great thing. So you know, post questions there, and people might be able to help you out and take a look for it. Take a look at it. Another question: are we going to be penalized for using NC24RS instead of NC24R?
No, again, as long as it's within the same version of the family. So NC24R and NC24RS are the same, assuming you mean V1, those are the same. You can't, however, swap an NC24RS for an NC24R V2 or V3. That's not the same family. So the only difference between the two SKUs that you've highlighted is the fact that it has an SSD versus non-SSD. That's fine. But changes in like the CPU type, excluding core count, or GPU type, for instance, you can't replace a K80 SKU with a V100 or P100 SKU. That's okay.
So you may notice that I'm heavily referring to Andy for all of these questions, and as he noted earlier, there's only one of him. I will also point out that Andy is the only person, maybe in the world, with the Microsoft SKU decoder ring, you know, tattooed up and down his arm. So a lot of these questions, he's uniquely qualified to answer. And if you come to one of the other committee members, we'll do our best to help, but we may end up referring you back to Andy. Please do be, as I said earlier in this presentation, respectful and show him as much grace as you possibly can. He's doing this out of the goodness of his heart, and we should all, you know, be thanking him as much as we can over the next several days.
Thanks, Scott. Just to clarify, like if you have questions on whether a specific VM substitution is okay, that's fine to reach out to me. As a general rule, if the VM name has a V in it, an underscore V and then a number, that's a different version of that SKU. If it doesn't have a V, you can assume that underscore V1 is implied. So to Mary's question, HB60 is essentially V1 of the HB series. HB120, if you look at the full SKU name, is actually HB120RS underscore V2. So that's a different version of that family. So it's not the same SKU.
Thanks, Andy. Clear as mud. We'll do our best.
Again, definitely feel free to reach out via the Google group if you have questions on specific substitutions.
And one reminder, there is a student orientation just starting in 1 minute. And I forwarded a calendar invite to everybody, but we'll post the Slack connection info in Slack also. But if you have any questions, we can always hang out here for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder that we're here at the top of the hour. So we will hang out for a few more minutes if folks have questions. But there is this other student orientation happening, and we'd encourage all of you to jump over to that one, and then we'll see everyone at the kickoff at 5 p.m. I hope you are all excited. We're all excited and ready to get started.
There's a link in the Slack now. And yes, we do suggest that advisors join the student orientation as well. It's good information to pick up.
I have a question. I've done these before, and the advisors were not allowed to go to the booth and talk to the students about what's going on. Well, how do you view the interaction between the mentor and the teams this year? Because it's so different. What are your expectations for that?
So Mary, are you referring to the liaisons or to another group of mentors?
The team mentors, the advisors, just what's the interaction for the
Oh.
competition?
For you all. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what are expectations and limitations?
So this question has come up a couple of times of what is there an activity that the mentors have to do as we have had as we did last year? There is not. So I think part of that idea there was to give the mentors something to do rather than hovering over their team. We assume that you're not hovering over your team since you're probably socially distanced. I don't think we really want to be prescriptive about how best to support your team. You know, every area these days is different in terms of guidelines and stuff. I would say just do your best to give your students all the support that you can.
Okay, thanks. By the way, guys, the committee, you've done an amazing job. I too appreciate how hard you guys have worked. And it's just great that you've pulled this off so quickly. So thanks from me and our team for everything you have been doing. It's great.
Well, thank you for your kind words. I hope that you'll have those same ones come Wednesday evening.
I'm sure I will.
All right, well, I'm going to sign off and we'll see everyone in a few hours or maybe a few minutes if you jump over to the orientation meeting. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you later.
Thank you.